Good evening. This is Arul, and for those of you who've been coming regularly or hearing these, we've been doing these Tuesday lives from People First. One is for knowledge sharing. Two is for us also to learn something new, to keep exploring something new. And thus, we keep taking certain very common, simple topics which we deal in the day to day work life and personal life, and we are just going into it. So I'm doing these live with a couple of my colleagues. So today we have picked a very interesting topic, something that I've been dabbling and I am still very interested in this topic. So how do we develop a whole view? Okay. So I'm going to share this experientially with some stories and stuff like that. So the first story is I've always been very interested in the martial arts called Calorific. Uh, the Kerala martial arts, but didn't have the good fortune of learning it. So during the first lockdown, interestingly, when many of the traditional people started coming to the forefront, there was one particular group which advertised saying that they're going to do an online course. So that's not the story mainly. But there was a description that they had made. A Kalari is a martial art, but here we learn more as a body work, body practice. So one of the things that I know about Kalari fight is the people who are really adept at it are extraordinarily conscious. So they practice kicks and by leaping. And one of the descriptions was as if the whole body has eyes. You can almost see even when your back is turned, and they sometimes practice with about 5, 6, 8 people. The description was even if somebody is coming from the back, you sense with a kind of an eye, on the back. So it was a very interesting description. So I've always been interested in this. Uh, uh, Very mindful people, very, very self aware people who can almost be aware in multiple directions. So, this is not a whole view, but the aspect of I being able to look at from multiple directions. So, I've been very interested in this. So, in the beginning, let's say when I was youngster, started people first and all that stuff, largely I was self-centered. Largely I was coming. Of course, there was a noble intent. I did want to do something useful. I did want to run the company very ethically, but I came with certain ideas and I brought it to the table. Okay, so and then I started recognizing that when certain kind of people or certain kind of customers were coming in, there was rapport and I was able to tune in, and certain things I was not able to tune in. Okay, so this was the angle that I was working on to develop. I recognized that if I had a view and if another person had a view, in the beginning, I really was not able to hold it and integrate it as best as I would have wanted. I used to exactly the description that I would put. If I hold my view, I recognize that I was able to understand that view but not go to the depth. I was missing something. And then when I swung in the other direction, I was recognizing that I was missing something in what I was holding. And then always there was the angle of the customer. There was the angle of it's not just one person. Like, so for example, one of the things I realized in my office is I have myself, I have my team, and sometimes the perceptions of even the family members of my the people who are working had a certain influence on the way they were looking at things. Like I ran certain culture initiatives. When you run certain cultural initiatives, it's not just about what we are doing, but how things are perceived. And I quickly recognized that even something which was fine in its intent, but because of a certain traditionality, I would bring certain modernity, for example, or sometimes I would bring a certain traditionality and there was a certain modernity. And it's not only the people inside, their spouses, their family members, and there was a whole degree of perceptions that was coming. Okay, so in the beginning, there used to be certain reactiveness, or even that, this is right, that is wrong kind of a thing. But while it is fine, I realized that the initiatives were not sitting too well. It used to be there and it didn't hold water, after a point, because some integration was not occurring. So this is where my own it's very difficult for me to articulate my journey on this. In fact, it's a tough topic because I want to keep it experiential. How did I develop, or how have I seen people developing in a whole view? Now let's take some examples. Now, just because a leader is the head of an organization, say they are a VP, or they are a general manager or a director, let's say even of a large organization like 500 or 1000, just because they are on top, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a whole view. Their view could be partial. Like I know a particular, I mean, of course, I'll keep all confidentialities. I know a particular leader in an organization, very good, very noble heart. The company has been growing, 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 growing. But in spite of certain good things that is occurring and certain challenges that are occurring, the person still continues to come from certain preferentialities which worked when the company was 10, 50, 100, 200, but may not necessarily work, when it is 2000. Though the person knows it cognitively, the person has approached even our organization and few other organizations in the past to consult. So while even the person is aware, fundamentally the lens through which the person is seeing is how they built it, and not necessarily able to take a different lens which is coming from, let's say, new employees or people who are coming from different companies, which means in this particular organization that I mentioned, when people come from newer organizations, they find it difficult to adjust because the old timers do carry a certain way of viewing and they're not able to integrate. This is a story of many a time in an organization or when there is a culture merger. So, okay, now let's take this conversation a little bit deeper. And if there's any doubt, anytime you could, or a question, you can put it on chat. How can we develop a whole view? Okay, this is a question without compromise, without compromise on self, without compromise on the other, without compromise on a customer view, etc. How can we develop a whole view? A whole view, if I were to say, is simply a view that can take into account the different perceptions, the different understandings of reality, and cut through that to see a unifying light. Okay, so I'm going to now share my own journey with this, my own learnings with this, to see if it could help any of you all. So the first thing I was always interested in, does my thought, does my thinking process hold clarity? Is it clear? This was the first thing that I was always very interested in. And this is something that has sailed or helped me through the times. Okay. So what is clarity? What is clear? If you put our attention into our mind, into our thoughts, okay, we will find that, let us say something is occurring in the team or we are doing some work. We have some opinions, we have some thoughts, we have some idea of what our organization is doing or what our product is doing. But many a time, a good majority of people are very comfortable with opposite opinions not integrated. Like I could take a very simple thing, which people generally struggle with. Do we have free will or things are predetermined? If you even take this debate is a fantastic way to develop a whole mind, provided we are able to rise up and not be caught on the two views. So, is there free will or are things determined? Things are determined means there is a higher will acting, or is the individual will, it can it counter things? And you could argue both ways because both are true. So here, very few people in the world have actually developed the capacity to honor this essence, honor this essence, and come to a higher view or a higher way of thinking where both coexist. And what is the thought process for that? Many don't take that effort to do that. So coming back to the point, is there clarity in the mind? So starting with very simple things, when I was passing out of college, what do I really wanted to do? And then the idea came that, I wanted to run a company which was involved in training. And then the idea came that I would also support it with recruitment. So in the beginning, there was a huge confusion. And then there is a clarity. Clarity means suddenly the thought or the vision is clear. I'm able to see what I should do in my life. And then with a will, I move forward. Okay. So now when, or for example, to flip that into a meeting, let us say we get into a meeting and let us say there's a particular challenge that is going through, maybe with a customer or maybe internally, and we start talking about it. There are four different perspectives, four different views. Mostly in an organization, how things are decided is, okay, finally we have spoken about what does the leader want to do. Even very large multinational organizations who proclaim that we are beyond the traditional way most often fall into that, okay, so ultimately we'll go with what a particular leader does. While it is fine in the beginning, it doesn't develop a whole view. So if there are five different views that are thrown in the meeting, actually, if you're honest, if you just step back and see, there is a confusion, what to do, what not to do, kind of a thing, which means at that point clarity is not there. Okay, so now I will come to this in a moment. We'll open another exploration in the mind to develop a whole view. The first thing we need is the mind holding clarity continuously across time. And when the clarity goes away, we're able to be with these opposing views, opposing ideas. Even for example, if somebody is not well, you go to one doctor, they'll say something, you go to another doctor, they'll say something. Family members who are well concerned or office colleagues who are well concerned give four different views, and actually one gets confused. Then you would go to the net and you'll get some popular opinions, or the trend need not always be the best way, because it has to be customized to the body, or in an organization always going with the most preferred way would just lead you into that average mark. Okay, yeah, like for example, now in hiring, there is a huge trend that let's just get candidates who are at a shorter notice period. While it will work for some time, if everybody starts doing it, it's a candidate who would have a huge advantage of salary negotiation. Customers would still be carrying with the same problem. Okay, so we have to customize stuff and take it in a unique way as much as we take the general opinions from the market. In such a case, clarity means that I'm able to hold all these and I'm able to wait. But in a business, there's always a time frame. The customer is not going to turn back and say, "Oh, okay, so you guys are reflecting. You had a meeting. There are multiple different opinions. So you do take your time, mull over it for a few days, and come back to me. I'm willing to wait." Nobody is like that. Okay, so they would come back and say, in the next 2 hours, I would want some kind of a clarity of what you guys are going to do. So even within that time frame, it's a particular way of methodology that, like say, if I have five children and I'm going to give them equal importance and equal year, I'm giving weightage for all the different opinions that have come in, but always I have to clarify a referral point. Clarity is against a referral point. Okay, like that's what they call it as a vision. A vision is different from a goal. A goal are specific. Vision is a broad direction. As far as there's a certain broad direction that you can define for your organization or your work or your product or service of your life. So you hold it against a referral point, but then you wait, you wait. And then if you have the patience, suddenly these things would come in. And from the confusion is a certain clarity. Now, for some lucky people, that clarity comes whole. From the meeting, they clearly see the problem and they see that, hey, this I think is what the customer wants. Many a time, the customer is also not clear. So, from the different voices that we have heard, we are sensing and we are saying, perhaps this is what it is and it's extraordinarily clear. We'll go for it. It's very rare. Most of the time, the clarity also comes like a treasure hunt. Something opens up, something opens up, something opens up, and the problem now comes is, as a team, how do we conquer? Okay, so this is the whole complexity of even the first point of, can we hold clarity in a group, in an individual? But that's the very first thread of developing a whole view. We need to move in the path of from light to light, from clarity to clarity. While there's confusion, we wait sufficiently for things to come together to reveal the clarity. For this, the second step is extraordinarily important. It's actually, I would say, 2A, 2B. There are two steps that come very close, and they are both have to be kicked in, not one. 2A, or the second step, is having a certain openness in the mind to receive, to listen. The openness has two functions. One is to listen in a horizontal way, which means, I'm like listening to all the different perspectives that are coming. Also, the open means to receive, which is more vertical, which means I am recognizing that there is a universal guidance. I'm recognizing intuition. Many of the big inventions, like a classic example is Nicholas Tesla. If you go to Facebook, I'm surprised to see that there are many groups who are, I would say, ardent fans of Nicholas Tesla, even though he's no more, and many of his inventions were far ahead of times. They're trying to decode, they're at least trying to decode in ABC way what this genius was up to. And if anybody knows him, he received all the intuition straight ahead into his mind. He knew how to listen, he knew how to tune in. And it's not something that is very rare. I've seen many business leaders, many businessmen who have uh, who are very savvy, which means that apart from listening to everybody in the room or listening to several different ideas, they keep their mind open as they're listening. They're not blocking anything, and they're also uh, receiving, something from the universe, something from the cosmic, something that can really guide them. Now that becomes a referral point, because when they get something from the horizontal, which means from the different people, and it's coming together, it'll be seen as a connecting thread. Everything clicks in and something falls together and they ride on it. It's only when they ride on it that the next step opens. And when they receive something from the universe, the way they know it is through an inner resonance. But then you have to take it into the collective and discuss it too. So the second point really is about open, and open at a horizontal level and open at a vertical level. If there's any questions, you can put it on chat at any time. I'll incorporate it in the exploration. And also, as I'm sharing, I want you to reflect, if you can. I also want you to reflect on yourself if you're aware of these things. So, before I go forward, the first is how much light is there in your mind? Light, like, so for example, in our body, we need food. Okay. The supply, we need to give food to our body for it to be well. For our mind to be well, its food is light, its food is clarity. The more light and clarity is there in your mind from your birth to the time that you leave the world, the mind is in its well-being state. But it is not a static thing. That's why they say, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. A knowledge of yesterday is still today. We need to learn new things. So then always you had a whole clear view, but then you can't stick with that. Then it's static, it's dry. You have to go and learn. Like, for example, I'm really interested in a particular subject. Somebody gave me a book of 700 pages last Thursday. So this Sunday, I was like, there's a lockdown in Chennai. So I was inside the house. So I said, I'm going to read. And I actually read 100 pages. This book is enormously very difficult. 70% of the book I'm not understanding on a favorite subject, which I've, been researching now for years. It's a very advanced book. But I didn't give up. I'm reading and I'm reading and I'm reading, which means there is confusion. What I was very clear, suddenly some things are, is it really that I've understood well? But this person is talking about something which is not in my experience, but it seems authentic. There seems to be some truth here. So I want to explore further. So it's from light to light, but it is never, never, never static. It's a continuous learning. So for that, the two-way is a way of speaking, is we have to keep the mind open to receive from the world, to receive from the people, to receive from books, constantly new perspectives, new learnings, but also to leave a channel open from above, so that you're receiving far greater whole insights. Okay, but 2A is open. 2B is to make a choice. If I'm always open, I'm sitting and, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out things. I'm trying for the integration to happen. I'm open, open, open. you will not be able to act with decisiveness. Uh, like, so for example, if you're incubating about a particular new product, you could be incubating and then you'll come to a point where it's all fine. You leave it and come back to it after 2 months. You'll feel that another thing is coming, another thing is coming. So if you like that, if you incubate without decisively moving forward, it'll only be in your drawing board. It'll be only on your computer. It'll be only in your prototype. It won't reach the world. So at some points, wherever you've had the clarity, light, and you've been open, you've been receiving stuff, and certain integration is coming. I'll come to integration a little bit later. Now you need to act decisively because the thought or the mind, one of its function is to direct. It directs. It's a vision. That's what it says. It moves. A vision means it moves forward and it guides our actions. So I have to act. So, like in a meeting, the customer has asked for something. We sit and debate. There's a certain open mind, and we are receiving something. We are seeing what light is there. At the end of it, with 70% clarity, 80% clarity, I need to move on. Maybe leaving a certain openness, but moving forward with the conviction and the clarity that is there. That's when we direct our action. I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say a very tough requirement has come from a customer. They have worked on it for 8 months. They have not cracked it. It's come to us. So if you're just going to work in the normal debrief way, you're not going to get it. So you understand the requirement, feel into it, and then you understand it very well. And then you talk to about 4 different people in the team, understand the requirement, talk to 4 different candidates. But you're always, leaving a room open and you're exploring into the world, trying to get the right candidate who will fit in there, always open, but moving with a certain understanding or a hypothesis that is there. So the 2V is very decisively moving forward with 100% clarity, very rare, but as much as possible and always following the path of light to light. When there is confusion, stepping back, waiting for things to form. Okay. Now, the third, I have spoken about it in bits and pieces, but maybe to give it a better articulation, the whole view is really about integration. It's about integration. It's about like what organizations now say, a 360-degree view. Like you want to know about yourself, you do a self-assessment. You go to your boss, you get an assessment. You go to your team members, you get an assessment. You go to the vendors, you get an assessment. Then you look at some ways of analyzing and seeing the common threads. Is still a surface way that I'm trying to get. But I could also understand something through its essence. So my boss has said something, I have said something, my customer has said something. All this is there. The integration is coming to that point where there is one light, one will, which is very rare. It's very rare, okay? But we can aim towards that at least, as an aspiration. So integration is something I'm reaching a better grasp of something at a higher plane with a newer belief, a newer perspective, which kind of is able to integrate multiple different things that the people are saying. Then I have entered perhaps the next level of the product or the next level of the service. I'm able to grasp the market, or even if it is, for example, something that's occurring inside me, I'm trying to understand. I've looked at it in multiple different ways, but perhaps the integration is not occurring. I still don't know why something is not healing in me. Or, for example, I'm trying to build a culture in an organization. Certain things have clicked and certain things are recurring as a problem. They're coming back again and again and again. So, which means that while I've understood something, while I've been open, some integration, a fuller view is not coming through. Then I need to have the capacity to dive a little bit deeper so I understand certain nuances which I've missed, certain nooks and corners that I have not explored the problem, certain things I've not seen about the product, certain things I've not understood about the requirement. I have to travel into some of the nooks and corners where certain shadows are hiding, certain unclarities are maybe unconscious, but it is there. When I go there and I allow that light, whole view is more light, which means I'm able to see the different views of everybody. Most often, for example, when a culture has not fully succeeded, somebody is holding an aspiration in the team. When I say somebody, it's not an individual. A certain type of people are holding an aspiration, which is not, or they want a certain quality in the organization, which has not been recognized and brought forward. So we have to then go and put the spotlight. Something is not falling in place in your product. You have to go and put the spotlight. Go back to the customer. Go back to the R&D team. Go back to the customer service team. Go back to the marketing team. What is it that is there somewhere in the hidden corners which are being missed out? Bring it back into the awareness, into the light. Put light on it, and then the integration would occur. When integration is not occurring, it simply means that we are brushing something away because we are running and running and running and changing the tire in the car as we are running, that we are not paying attention to something in the body, to something in the team, to something about the product. Something is being missed. Now, remember the path of light to light. When something is being missed, you should not just focus on the confusion, and lose the light that is already there. But using the light that is already there, we shine it on something that is being missed, and then you uncover a new knowledge, a new insight, and then you bring it into the table, bring it into the product, bring it into the team, bring it into the culture. But it has to integrate, not forcibly. Forcibly simply means do it. No, that's really not the point. But really hold the multi perceptions, multiple ways that the different people want to be in the organization, run the organization. And when you allow that integration to fall in, first at the level of the vision, you have a whole view, but then we need to bring the will and the capacity to take it into the team, take it into that, and that's how we are going to do it. Okay. So we're about end time. So we'll close it with a practice. Kindly close your eyes and just put your attention on your mind and just be with your breath. We're going to do a very simple practice. Take some situation in your work or in your life and view the situation from your thoughts. View the situation from another team member's thoughts. And another team member's thoughts. All this influences, because actually our thoughts dart out, and maybe some of you would have taken a personal or professional, whatever. Maybe a key member, a senior member in the community or family or the organization, his or her thoughts about the same situation. And then if it's an office, then the customer's thoughts, or if it's in the family, then extended, well-wishers' thoughts and perspectives. And then just leave it all open. Leave it all open. And for a moment, be with your breath. And amongst these many thoughts that are coming from different sources, different perceptions, just see where there is light, where there is clarity, and just be with that. Where there's confusion, let it be for a while. Whoever, there could be clarity from one team member, a little bit here, a little bit there. Just hold it all in your inner awareness. And just see how this fits together. How this fits together as an understanding of the problem or a solution. And then, like this, I've given you a very taste of a very simple way of integrating this whole thing. You're looking at the different views. You're looking at where there's clarity or not. You're leaving everything open. And then you wait internally across time, a few minutes or a few days or a few hours. And then as you get that full clarity, as things fall in place, it's a sign that the whole view is kicking somewhere. And as you keep training this internally, not falling into the temptation of going with one view, but allowing multiple views to come together. It's like multiple babies come together, they intermingle, new babies are formed, And that light, when you pursue, the chances of you creating something great is higher. The chances of you satisfying the needs of multiple people, multiple stakeholders is higher. And if you're applying it to yourself, then the chances of you understanding what's happening in your body or in your family could be greater. With that, thank you so much. It was a slightly difficult exploration. I hope I could do justice to the topic. Thank you for joining. Thank you for hearing it later. See you soon. Bye bye.